WDS, Windows Deployment Services. In this video I'm trying to show you the step-by-step instructions in installing WDS, Windows Deployment Services. Now with Windows Deployment Services one can install Windows XP, Vista and Windows 7 machines, and for the purpose of time I'm going to try to demonstrate Windows 7. But the whole idea of this is that the organization will actually have an image of all the software that they require onto the machine, and then through just connecting it through WDS they can actually configure as many computers as they like to have all the latest software and everything on there. For this demonstration I think everybody knows that our address is 192.168.0.100. I'm going to show you the network configuration here. So if you go to network in here, network and internet. So if I go into properties and I go to the internet protocol VSec4, remember we set that one up, and it's got 192.168.0.100, 255.255.0 and 196.1.0.1. Okay, it's given us a preferred DNS 127.0.0.1 automatically because we just set up DNS on there. So that's just one of the things to be mindful of, because of Server 2008 automatically detects a DNS server. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, I must stop saying okay, but anyway, the next thing we're going to do, install the domain services role using Server Manager. Using Server Manager, we are going to go into Server Manager and look at the roles here. Now, as you can see, we've got the DNS server, the file server status. So we can just click on Add Roles, and then we click on Next, and we can see here Windows Deployment Services. Just one thing before we do that, we've got to be mindful that we need the Active Directory domain services, and that has to be installed. We did that in the previous videos, so basically we're going to just move on from there. Right, so the next thing we're going to do now, before we do anything, is we've got to install DHCP. Obviously when the clients are connecting they need to pick up an IP address, so they'll pick it up from the DHCP server and the WDS roles. So for the DHCP range I'm going to use 192.168.0.1.101 to 192.168.0.110. So basically what we'll have to do is put the DHCP on there and the Windows Deployment Services here, and click on Next. Read the instructions. If you feel happy about it, then that's exactly what we're going to choose, the defaults, and that's it then. We just go to Next. Okay, we continue with our settings, so we go to Next. We know that we called it my domain not local, and we know for a fact that the DNS was that the server that we got, the address that we got before. So we continue, and then Windows not required application on this network. We're not using Wins, so we're going to keep that as it is. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to now add a scope, and then we get a scope name, scope address. Now the addresses that we were going to use here was 192.168.0.101 to 192.168.0.110. We're going to give this a name. I mean, this scope is for WDS, so we're just going to put WDS, and it's 110. Again, it's automatically, subnet mask has been automatically given there. Okay, that's all correct for us, so we give it the scope here, WDS, fantastic. Do Next. Now, because we got enable this, that's fine, yeah. So we carried on. Oh, sorry, let me go to the previous. Oops, sorry, mistake here. Disable for the V6, yeah, that's fine because we haven't got that in place at the moment. Use the current credentials. Yep, that's fine. I mean, in my case, I've disabled IPv6 stateless mode. This was accident. You don't have to do it if you don't want to do it. Okay, so we're back into things. It's my domain administrator. That's fine. Next, and then install. Now this will take a bit of a while to install the DHCP, so we're going to pause. Okay, good news. As you can see, everything installed successfully and everything is on as it should be. Pretty straightforward, nothing complicated there. Now we've got to actually start configuring our WDS. One thing to quickly check here is to make sure the DHCP server is working. So you've got the tick next to it, so that's fine. We've got our scopes in there, server options, so that's fine. Automatically the lookup should be forward address forwarding would be done as well, really, and that's our IP range. That's good. So next thing we've got to go in the server manager is the Windows deployment services. We go in there and we start configuring WDS. To start our Windows deployment services, we need to move in here, which is our server, and it's telling you that it's not configured. So we need to start configuring it now. So right click on the server and say configure server. Before you begin, we've got to make sure that the Active Directory is in there, like I mentioned before. The DHCP is there, the DNS is active, and the server has an NTFS file partition to store images on, which it does, remember, because we had extra storage space and we converted it into NTFS. So we do next. Now the remote installation folder will contain boot images, install images, PXE boot files, and Windows deployment images. Choose a partition. So we're going to put it on C. Enter the path, the remote installation directory folder. We can enter the path of the remote. Now we have to choose a partition that's going to be large enough to hold all the files in it. So let's go into the computer and let's see our new volume, which is the E drive. Okay. Here you can see that E drive has got 135 gigabytes of disk storage space. That should hold all the images that we can actually have. So that's fine for us at this time being. So we're going to say E drive, and we're saying OK, and then we're going to just put in the folder. Oops. For my purposes, I've chosen E:remote install. I do next here. We are going to say do not listen on port 67 and configure DHCP option 60 to PXE clients. So that's what the port they're going to be using. Just to be mindful of something, that accepting clients automatically can be a security issue here. But for this purpose, because we're going to keep this unit just separately away on its own little mini network, we can ignore this issue. Then what we can do is we can actually click on respond to all clients, known and unknown. Okay, there you go. Click on next to continue. Enabling and Windows deployment services is being loaded here. Pause. I've left the always add images to the server now. You can leave the check mark checked if you want. The only difference will be the image installing, which will start automatically. I'm going to leave it on for the time. I haven't got an image at the moment anyway, but there we go. We haven't got any images at the moment. I have got an image which I'm going to put on later on, and I can show you if that works, if it works. But at the moment I'm just going to cancel this. Are you sure you want to cancel? Yes, I do want to cancel. And now what we've got is we've got WDS, install images, boot images, pending devices, multitask and drivers, all packages. There you go, WDS has been installed on the server, and we hopefully now, when we actually get the boot image, the WIM image, and the boot and the image of the hard drive, we should be able to install it automatically from the server. Fine, the gist of the story is that at the moment in the folder called source drivers, we have actually created a new folder called network new. From the HP website we have downloaded all the drivers for the network cards, because that's what we're having, that problem that we're having, and we've copied it onto a stick and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring it onto the this folder, and then go through the process of adding the drivers on the WDS image. I'll go through that in a minute. So here we've copied all the drivers that we can find into the folder called Internet Gigabit. Okay, so we're going to try to add the driver packages again and see what happens. So basically we go into roles, Windows deployment, servers, anti-server, that's the one, and the drivers. Okay, here we're going to go add driver package. Yep, and then we're going to go to the location, select the driver packages from a folder. So we're going to browse, we're going to computer, we're going to go to the E drive, and we know it's in the source folder, and it's network new, Intel Gigabyte. Okay, we do next is found all the drivers that I think is going to be capable of adding. Do next, it's going to add all these drivers, hopefully, to this 820 form factor. So we put them in there. Now the next thing to do is to go to the boot image, click on the boot, and we've got to set add driver packages to image. Yep, let's do next. Search for packages. We've got all these packages. We say next, and hopefully it should add all those packages in. Search for packages and add them in. And then when we come to boot the machine, it should hopefully find the network drivers. Pause. The domain is, oh, it's my domain, isn't it? Okay, so we've got that school. Yep, that's the one that we want to load on to this machine. And so where do you want to install this? Well, I want to install it on this partition here, don't I? If I say next, okay. Well, guess what? It's working. There we go. We'll just leave that to run, and that should have the Windows installation on that machine pretty soon. Okay, I'm going to cut this and see what happens with that. Good. After putting all the necessary parameters in there for the new installation, like the date, the time, agreeing to the service and the country and the zone and the keyboard, it continues and is preparing your desktop with all the icons and all the software loaded onto the computer. Pause. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to build an image on a 64-bit. As you can see here, what we've got is a 32-bit operating system, so we're going to build our image on a 64-bit. Now basically we've done the WDS off the server here, and as you can see, all the applications that we use in the environment are all loaded on together with Office, and all the drivers and everything has been loaded on correctly, so that's fine for us. We're actually quite happy with all that.